I am Catherine. I am the Director of Marketing at alwaysAI, and we're super excited to have you join us today for the remote deployment tutorial. We have a couple of alwaysAI team members with us. We have Steve Griset. He is alwaysAI's co-founder and CTO. He is a veteran in the software Silicon Valley tech industry with over 36 years of experience. We have Todd Gleed, the Director of Product, and he has been focused in B2B product management for the past 7 years, with the last 3 focused in computer vision. And he will be walking us through the new remote deployment feature of our platform 2.0. We also have Justin Rich. He's the Director of Cloud Engineering and IT. And he has spent the last 5 years in systems architecture and leading software engineering teams. So as we have the team and Steve and Todd walking you through our new feature, please start adding your questions in the Q&A box, and we will get to them at the end. But as the questions come along, feel free to just start placing them in there so you don't have to wait till the very end. And now I'm gonna hand it over to Steve.
Thank you, Catherine. So welcome. This is our second webinar this year on our Platform 2.0. So what is Platform 2.0 for us? So it's obviously building on the feature set we had in Platform 1.0 and then adding a new set of features and products that really complete us as an end-to-end computer vision platform, so you can always just stay within alwaysAI to get everything done, and so forth. So, why are computer vision platforms and why should we care? Well, here at alwaysAI, what we're seeing is computer vision is being used from everything from Jamba Juice all the way down to Glencore and their cobalt mining. So we're seeing this vast adoption of computer vision, and it's very important to have a full platform to be able to manage the life cycle of that computer vision application and machine learning models and everything else. The other thing we've seen is even outside of our little alwaysAI world, we see it, Chat GPT, we've talked about, or I'm sure you've heard about that. It's using computer vision in its applications and so forth. So you can see there's becoming this real renaissance and broad adoption of it. So today we got really 2 things. As I said, we've got new features, and then we also have features that have improved. So today we're going to talk about remote deployment, as Catherine has said, and we're also going to go ahead and update you a little bit on what's happened with analytics, and I'll probably start right there. Well, actually, let me go into the whole thing. I'll combine them all together and talk through the feature set and so forth. Because we have a lot of features on this, I'm going to do something that I didn't do during practice. So I'm going to shock Kat right now, or Catherine, we call her Kat. I'm going to shock her a little bit because I'm going to put up a slide so I can remember all the things that go on and walk through and make that important. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here real quick with the feature set that's coming into remote deployment and talk a little bit about what's improved on analytics. So let me do that real quick here. And I'm going to share, and I'm going to put it in slide mode because that's what we care about. And I'm going to test the CTO to see whether he can do it. So boom. So Kat, let me ask you, can you see my screen and slides and so forth?
Yes, I can see it. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, so let's start to talk about some of the key features in remote deployment. So anyway, let me step back and take a high level. So what is remote deployment? Well, remote deployment to us, and what's important about remote deployment, is you have to be able to manage your applications and your models. So think of this as we have to combine application management, which you find in many products and so forth, but we also have to combine that with model ops. Why? Because it's core to computer vision, having that machine learning application and so forth. And the other piece is machine learning just doesn't stop at your first release. Machine learning is an ongoing process to model. So think about our own human learning. We do that over time and so forth. Well, we have to do that with models too. So you're always exchanging and trying models and so forth. So when you do something in remote deployment, it's really important that in computer vision and AI, that you take into account that machine learning model and the management of it and the changes that you want to do out there, as well as, of course, the application. So with that background, let's talk about what we cover. Well, we deploy on either edge, cloud, or on-premise service. So what's that mean? Well, for those of you new to our platform, we embraced Docker real early on. And so we have images that run across many different devices and platforms, which allow us to deploy in many different types of environments, from the edge all the way up to the cloud on that. So of course, our remote deployment tool has to be able to manage that type of architecture and so forth. So that's why we have that broad range of deployment. Now let's get into what's changing about analytics. How do we do things with remote deployment, and what did we introduce in that? So we had our own pipeline. So we streamed to the cloud on our initial version of analytics that we released last year. So we wanted to make that more robust, more intelligent, and so forth. And so what we did is we created this intelligent device agent, which also manages the device you have, or the cloud instance, or wherever it is. And what that introduced into the system is queuing mechanisms and a transport mechanism too, so that you have this intelligent conversation between the host and the client. Let's do it that way. And so what that allows us to do in analytics before, let's say you had a disruption in analytics, or you had throttling that happens because of network and things like that. So what would happen before? You would drop package, you would lose packages and things like that. So you wouldn't have a complete vision of what was going on in the application, because you would have gaps, right? That would happen with outages, and those happen, right? Happens on your cell phone, by the way. Definitely happens from your cable providers, I can tell you that. But so anyway, so how do you handle that situation? Well, that's part of what the intelligent agents and the queues do. They can queue when you're not online and then restart and pick that up. They can reset the analytics to start to happen if we have a reboot and so forth. And also, if we're having network issues and so forth, they can also control the flow of the system. And then the good news is we now have really a secure transport system that we put in place for those analytics system, as well as what's going on between you and your application on it. And that's what these intelligent device agents have done for us out there. Also really I'll go down to something we talk about, mega scaling, that we're able to do, right? Because the intelligent agent is pulling and doing all this type of work, it allows us to scale from one device all the way up to 1 million devices, and theoretically beyond that too. So, but if you have 1 million device deployment, I'll be very happy. But anyway, so that's got that piece of it. So what are some of the other things that are going on? And that is the enhancement to analytics I wanted to talk about. But we're going to test applications. We may even have a variety of applications within our system. So we have one in one domain solving problems here, and another one, and so forth. Well, we control multiple versions of your application, as well as multiple types of applications down there. So we can go, so you can have a one-on-one relationship or a fleet relationship with your product. So again, that's the scaling out there. We can do fleet deployments where everything looks the same. Maybe later on you want to test in A location, B location, or A instance, B instance, and so forth. You can make those changes and implement the application the way you want and the model. So I think where I was trying to get to, let's say I have a model, it's doing very well, but I want to add new features, and I've trained the model and added new classes and so forth. I can target that to just one of those locations before I roll it out massively. Or maybe a location says, well, you know, we've introduced, let's say it's watching a fast food restaurant. We now are making pies, right? And none of my other locations are making pies. So we add the observations of how a pie is being made, when the pie is completed, and so forth. So we're able to do those types of things and have the flexibility in the system. Then what happens if I make a mistake, right? What happens if the model's not right, the application's not right? Should we just let the site go down? Nope. No, what we want to do then is do a rollback, go back to our labs, do our work, and then deploy that back out and so forth, so that we have an easy roll forward, roll back piece, because mistakes do happen out there. You don't want to be as hard down because of the mistake, or generating data that's not useful. Then, like many of the tools, we have basic device usage details, like your CPU, your disk utilization. You can view what's going on in your analytics, what's the memory of that device and so forth, what's going on with it. So all those very important statistics that come from the application device are also monitored, and Todd will be showing all this stuff on it. So we have all that piece, and then just what I want to say further is we are preempt a question here. Our next phase, we will be introducing GPU statistics and so forth, and that's one of the improvements we'll be making to the system and so forth in the future. And you also hear us talk about organizations. Right now, we're very project oriented, and we're going to be moving to organizations, which will allow us to collaborate more than we do today across an enterprise, which is really important to an enterprise software vendor. So look for those, and I'm sure I'll be back on a webinar with my partners in crime here, and we'll be demonstrating that. So Kat, that's all I have right now. I think people probably are tired of me and want to hear Todd, or want to see Todd show the product off.
Yes, let's have Todd walk us through the feature and get into the platform. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm sure people don't want to see me. They want to see the platform. So let's do that. Share screens. Can you see it?
Yes.
Perfect. So to start out, I'm going to give a little overview of our console site. This is our platform for people who may not be familiar with it. We've got our dashboard here. This is kind of your home page, and then we go right to projects. I'm going to skip right through this because we're going to be going more over projects later. That's where most of this demo is going to take place. But then we have data. So this is our data set management and annotation tool that we gave a webinar on a couple weeks ago. So check that out. I think it's available on YouTube to get more info on our data set management. We've got models. This is where you can use our model training tool to train your own models. They're in your private repository. And also we have a robust model catalog of general models that you can use for testing and your application and other things. Collaborators, this is where you can add teammates, share your assets with them, share models, share projects, and then devices, which is actually where I'm going to start today. So to start out, these are the devices that have been provisioned to my account. So in order to do this, this is where you do need access to that device. This is SSH access. So as long as you can remote into the device, you can add all the components you need to remotely deploy and manage your applications and models right through our console here. So that's all documented. There's a script you run. It adds our device agent, and that enables us to connect to the cloud. That adds the certificates required. It identifies the device and associates it with your account. I'm not going to show it for the, you need your password and stuff to do that, but these are devices that have been associated with this account through that provisioning process. And there's only one channel of communication between the device and the cloud. And so all messages are encrypted in transit. It's secure and ready to deploy your application. And so all these are ready. So once I have devices provisioned and associated with my account, then I can go to a project, and this is a little different. So you'll see the devices associated here with the project, but when you do it for the first time, there's not going to be any devices until you deploy the project to them. And so a project in alwaysAI space contains the models associated with that project. So these are either general models from our catalog or custom models that you have trained using our tools or brought in from outside. It's got collaborators that you can share the assets of the project with, devices, of course, and then we version the applications, and I'll show you how that works. And the application is where the logic of your project is, the actions you take based on the inferences of your model, the analytics, all that is contained in your application. So the first thing I'll do, so I have already configured this project. This associates it with my account. I've got the files required, app.py. If you download our starter apps, you'll see this is where the logic lives. And so this is just a demo. And so the first thing you need to do is publish the application to the cloud. So you need to make sure that you've associated a model. I've already added this model to the project, and I do a AI app install that brings everything down, and then I'm going to publish a new version of this application. AI app publish, give it a name. And what this is going to do is publish the logic and the code that I've used on my personal IDE to the cloud, have it available in the console. So here's the release package. I could see the hash, kind of confirm the first 4 characters here. And then I can come down here to the application versions and see that it's been published and it's available and it's ready to deploy. We can confirm with the hash that the right version has been published, and now I'm ready to deploy it to my devices. So we could see that the devices from my device list are here, and I can choose, a subset of them. I can deploy to all of them. I can deploy anything I do. I think I'll just select all of them. Review the deployment, make sure that it's set up. I'm deploying to that devices that I want to deploy to, and go ahead and click deploy. Now this is going to take different amount of time based on the network connection of those devices, based on the size available and the processing speed. But there will be status associated with that. You can see how it proceeds, whether it's deployed or not yet. And this, you don't need to sit here watching the status. If you close out of this, you can go down to the deployments table, which is deploying that same application, and get the details, and it should update as you go. So you can deploy it and trust that it's doing what it needs to do in the background. So now all these devices have the application deployed. Now a lot of these are demo devices, so I'm going to go into our lab demo one to kind of give you the details of the device once the application has been deployed to it. So here on this screen, you'll see a number of things. So as Steve mentioned, we'll get details on the device itself. We could see the CPU usage and the disk utilization. So that's checking that there's enough space to make sure if you want to make updates or add models, there's enough room on your device, and the memory usage. So this status is running. This is the application that I just deployed, and so I can do a number of things. I can start and stop the application right from this screen. I can check the configuration, and this is where I can make updates. I can change the default script and logic that runs when the application starts, and I can also change the model here. I've got logs giving me details of the status, to see what's going on, making sure if there's any problems, what can happen, attaching to. So this is where if I wanted to, update this, I don't have another application, but I can change that. And then it should show me that, hey, you don't have an application called app2.py. So I say, yeah, you're right. I'll change it back, make sure it runs. And then it's going to restart and be showing that application. Same thing with the model. As long as the deployed app has the model added to it, you've added to the project before you deploy it, then you can switch between models remotely. So you can really manage, the versions of your application and manage the models right from the console. So here's the app running. This is just here in the office, using a generic model. Not necessarily interesting, but this is where you can add logic, as Steve mentioned, to your application, where analytics is running through your device agent, and through the bulked up analytics, you get feedback to the application, whether it needs to throttle, if the cloud is getting backed up and it needs to throttle down the messages, or if you lose Wi-Fi access, it'll send that information to the application, and you can write logic in there to account for any errors in analytics, and perform action based on those. And then as Steve mentioned as well, that device agent will automatically start the application upon reboot of losing power. Yeah, if it does lose internet connection, it's going to perform a reconnection action that kind of has an exponential back off. So it keeps on trying to reconnect through longer and longer gaps between until you are reconnected. Yeah, so that's it.
Todd,
really. Yeah.
Todd, quickly, I want to hit one. I know Kat said wait till the end, and she can counsel me later, right? on good presentation. But anyway, so it kind of comes to the core. So the question really is, how do we deploy? How does remote deployment work? How would I do coach? I have a fleet of robots. How's this going to work, and so forth with model changes. So let's talk about. I want to get this one because it really talks about us as a platform. This is a feature of the platform we're talking about, but like all large cloud providers and systems and things like that, we have a CLI, right? And so you can use our stuff to create an application, or you can create an application and so forth. And what the CLI has is command. So command line interface, for those who don't know what CLI is, but anyway, you're able to add models from, once you've uploaded a model from our platform, you're able to add a model to your application package. You're able to add an application to your application package, obviously. It sounds redundant there, but you're able to add all those things. And so that's what Todd's showing there. So that's how you get them in, and then you do what we call publish, and that will take it and create a container and so forth for the running application. And then you'll simply upload that into the remote deployment system, and then you can launch out your fleet, because each one of those robots will be a device. Now after that, I have my initial deployment on all these systems with the model. Then I can sit and add new models to that project, and then I can target who gets those new models, and so forth. Or I can do individually. Each robot is a project, and just because maybe they're doing different functionalities and so forth, and I can manage them that way. But you have your choice. You can do fleet, individual project, or a combination of those, and that's how you change it. So really encourage people to get in and use the platform. It's quite powerful, and so forth. So hopefully that's got your question answered a little bit, and Todd's showing you some of the CLI system there in it.
Yeah, and Steve, that reminds me of something that I glossed over, but wanted to touch on, is the actual development application. We've got a robust SDK, we call it Edge IQ, and that's got a bunch of built-in computer vision functions. It's tracking that sort of thing that really makes the development of your application and the logic that's associated with it really straightforward.
Right, right.
and
that's
accessible.
one way to do it. Then there's also the other way, as I talked about, that you can, develop your own application. As you showed, you can, we use something called app.py, but you can go ahead and we can just have a stub on that because the CLI does look for that, but you can add your own Python name. So let's say you want to do app development outside of all of us, it will still work. So I wish you'd use our stuff, but if you didn't, then we can still run it. We can still take in custom models and everything else like that. So it's just where you want to enter into our platform. So there you go.
Yeah, so that's what I had to demonstrate today. I hope we're really open to any questions. So get those in the chat, and I'll hand it back to Kat to ask those and give them to us to answer.
Yeah, thanks guys. And thanks for answering that question, Steve. So I do want to voice to one of the questions that Justin answered to what are the security features. I'd love if you could also speak out loud to that so the rest of the attendees could also have the answer in case anyone else had the same question. You had a great response. So Justin, I'm gonna hand it over to you if you wanna answer that out loud to the rest of the attendees as well.
Hi, everybody. Kat, you can hear me okay, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, what the question was, what are the security features? And I was just highlighting the fact that we use device security credentials. So the device agent, when it's provisioned, also receives a set of X509 certificates, which in connection or in conjunction with the access policies that are set for the device, kind of defines, what those devices will have access to and how they can interact with the cloud. And then everything that is transmitted from your application to the cloud uses that single channel of communication over TLS, which is transport layer security. And essentially the idea here is that you have one certificate per device and one channel of communication for that device. And if there happened to have been a compromise on a device, then there are tools in place to be able to easily and quickly revoke the certificates for that device and then reprovision that device, clean it up, and get it back in action. So we've kind of put in place a very simple but straightforward security mechanism that is easy for you to manage, but also secure and protects your assets. So I think that's enough to say about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. All right. Are there any other questions about our new remote deployment feature, or just in general about computer vision, our alwaysAI platform, also our new data set management feature that also just launched? We are open to all questions here. All right. Have you worked with cameras in motion? For example, a camera attached to a plane or drone?
So the answer is yes to that, but it's been more of a robotics motion and so forth where we've done that. We've also had them in electric vehicles and so forth, but not drones so far. So if you're a drone maker, we'd love to work with you on drones. So.
Next question, what's support for platforms like Jetson look like?
Yeah, so we are a NVIDIA partner, and so we basically will support NVIDIA devices currently right now on the 4.x Jetpack. So that includes the Nano through the Xavier AGX. We are, and it was a great question because we're going to have our next webinar is going to be about NVIDIA and all the great things we do with NVIDIA and so forth. But we also support through the all the way up to the x86 devices. So you get your choice of from Jetson to their x86 platforms. and so forth on that. So we have very good support on those. Some of the features we have too is we will convert models into TensorRT engines for you and so forth. So a lot of support on our platform for Jets, and they're a great partner of ours, NVIDIA.
Thanks, Steve. Next question. Have you implemented solutions for building inspection?
We have not done that to date on that, but it's certainly within our wheelhouse.
Do you have experience working with ROS2? Very often the code base will be in Git, and what needs to be done is all the robots pull in the latest changes, rebuild and rerun all launch files. Does this integrate easily with your platform?
So always within, so we have integrated with ROS. And so I'm going like, is it easy? You have to be able to do container to container communication. So some type of queuing mechanism between our platform and so forth. We have two examples. We've worked with a robotics company that was moving around a factory type floor. Just a matter of fact, worked with that company. And we also worked with Verizon, was one of our key partners there on that system. So introducing 5G and robotics there. We also have worked with an autonomous boat company that was they were ROS 1, and I think, Justin, that we had ROS 2.0 on the robotics, but you have to correct me on that because you were intimately involved on that. I was on the boating side, but they did set up, we have our container running, and they have their system, and then we were transferring stuff between a message queue. Go ahead, Justin, sorry.
No, that's correct. I believe they actually used, at least in terms of the robotics company, they used both ROS 1 and then ROS 2. They were intending to use ROS 2, but started with ROS 1 just as a test case, and then moved over to ROS 2.
And then how did they do their integration on that? Do you know?
Yeah.
Or
I don't have a deep understanding. It was container to container communication. So they implemented our application within its normal container, and then they had their own container that they were using for ROS 2. But beyond that, I think you described it well.
Yeah. And again, we can do application management. So if you're in that ROS environment and you containerize, we can manage those containers with our remote deployment system.
Thank you, guys. All right, let me know if there are any more questions. We will give it a minute to see if any other questions do come through. And thank you for those that have been asking those questions. They've been great questions. All right. Can your platform be hosted outside Saudi Arabia cloud?
Outside, I mean, today it's outside, but I think what the question probably is, can we work within the Saudi Arabian cloud? And the answer is absolutely yes on that. Love to do some work in Saudi Arabia. So there's no reason that we can't work in Saudi Arabia's cloud. So there's no restrictions for us to do that. So be a great opportunity for us.
All right, just going to give it a couple more.
So hopefully I answered that correctly, that with the gist of the question working inside. So
if you do have any follow-up questions to that, definitely feel free to add it in. He said, yes, it is inside.
Yeah. Love that opportunity.
All right, next question. Are we able to send custom telemetry data back to View?
So can you customize the analytics? And the answer is yes. That's, when we say telemetry, I assume this is going to be, hopefully it's in the drone that you're going to have different type of telemetry, and you're wanting to do that. So yes, it's a common publish and subscribe. See, I can talk English at some point in time. And we're able to do that, and we can handle different channels outside of just raw computer vision. So sensor fusion's a big one to do on that. So yes. we can handle that.
Great question. Gonna wait to see if there's any more questions that come through. I want to make sure that we get everyone's questions answered. What are the minimum requirements for solution to work in a device, hardware specs?
So there's a variety of that, and a lot of it's not a simple question on that. So it depends on your model architecture. So we have single shot detectors, right, that are out there that can do a job in object detection and so forth. And right now I don't know if we have a massive deployment going on that does both facial recognition and object detection that's running on B-Link device, which is these little devices that look like set-top boxes. As a matter of fact, the B-Link manufacturer did that out of China. That's where they got their start. And it's a base x86 system that costs, well, what a Raspberry Pi used to cost before they became expensive. So it will run on those devices if that model architecture does it. Now, if you start to get more advanced and more processed, then the minimum is going to start to be in that Jetson category and so forth. We have done some projects too on Raspberry Pis and so forth, and it works fine on that environment. But again, you have to choose your complexity, how many streams are you going to handle, and things like that. So we can match that device as long as that application meets those types of spec, that it's not too advanced. So you are definitely bound by computing power, but we've worked across many of these.
Thanks, Steve. Oh.
So our APIs. Okay, so let me get the next one. Sorry, Kat's gonna go. Once you ask me the question, then I'll answer. I'll be more better behaved here.
Go for it.
So anyway, so the question is, how does the platform integrate with model development options like TensorRT? So again, Todd was talking about our API. So our API support GPU types of deployment. So simply you have your model, you say, I want to work with CUDA, for instance, and so that it will take care of the back end loading of that and so forth, and working with CUDA, and all the APIs work with CUDA and so forth. So you can do that. Now, the answer was, okay, I don't want just CUDA, I want TensorRT. And again, within the API, there's a parameter piece, and you can implement that and use the TensorRT engine too within your application. And you can switch. Right, so very easily changing that, I can move from the CPU to CUDA which uses the GPU CPU, and then I can go to a TensorRT engine and so forth on a Jetson or x86 type device on that. So it's all within our APIs of our system to allow the flexibility to do that. And again, we even have the CLI will then also take your model and compile it down into the TensorRT for you. So the platform handles conversions as well. Yes, thank you. More eloquently said in the question than my answer. But yes, we do that.
Thanks, Steve. Any more questions? All right. I'm going to do one last call. Want to make sure that we don't miss anyone and we get everyone's questions in. Okay, so thank you everyone so much for joining us. I am going to hand it over to Steve to close this out.
Yeah, so I want to thank everybody for attending. I think through the questions, we know what the next one coming up real soon is going to be about, our NVIDIA support and everything around that. I would encourage you to come in and learn about all the great things we're doing with NVIDIA. So maybe I can talk Kat into giving away a prize too, because I always like doing that, but we'll see on that. But anyway, you're going to learn a lot about how we can help you in that NVIDIA environment that you're working in, how to do model conversions. We're going to show Orange support at that time, and then Jetpack 5.0 also for those, or 5X, I should say, support. So we'll go through the whole thing there, and it should be pretty neat. And I look forward to seeing all you at the NVIDIA webinar coming up.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks again for everyone joining us. We will be sending a recording out, so you will have access to this. And I'm also going to put into the chat, if you'd like to continue learning more about Always AI and you have questions about our platform, you can definitely sign up for our Discord community. It's a great community where everyone just communicate and talk about computer vision and the Always AI platform. And then if you also like to start utilizing our new remote deployment feature, you can schedule a call with one of our AI experts to go ahead and get that started. I'm posting both of those links into the chat right now. And we'll also have both of those links in our follow-up email with the recording. So thank you again for taking your time out of your day to spend it with the Always AI team. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks again.